So hi, we are back live. Hello, Marie, Frédéric, and Michael. So happy to have you three on stage for this next session. So we're gonna have a focus on sales and enterprise sales. So Marie will be leading the discussion. Marie, maybe you want to start?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Quentin. Welcome, everyone. Just a quick intro from myself. I'm Marie Gisbert. I'm working at Axeleo, which is actually pouring and organizing B2B Rocks. As some of you may know, Axeleo has an acceleration program, and I'm actually program manager, which means I'm working with seed startups on many topics to help them in this critical growth phase, working on sales, marketing, pricing, and many other topics. And I'm really pleased to be animating this discussion with Frédéric and Michael today, because of course sales and how to scale the sales organization is the core of many questions that startups have today. So I hope you guys will be able to get many actionable insights from this discussion. So we have today Michael Wax, which is the MD and co-founder at Forto, which is a Berlin-based freight forwarding company with over 200 people. Hi, Michael. I will let you introduce you a bit right after. And Frédéric Kingue was VP Sales Western Europe at Contentsquare, which helped brands with their conversion and analytics, especially on the retail side of business. I think we've lost Frédéric. I hope he'll be back soon. So to start, Michael, I will let you introduce yourself a little bit more, as well as the company. I know it's not your first company, actually. So please tell us a little bit more about yourself and the company.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Marie, and thanks for having us today. My name is Michael, as you said, I'm founder at Forto, and with Forto, we are basically building the backbone for global trade, making shipping products as easy as sending an email. So today we help more than 2,500 B2B clients out of Europe to import and export cargo. So we basically orchestrate their entire supply chain and make it more tangible, more transparent for them over our platform to steer the products and make sure that they arrive on time at their end customers.
Cool. Thank you, Michael. Frédéric, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself and Contentsquare?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I'm Frédéric, VP Sales of Contentsquare, in charge of the sales and business development of the Western Europe region. I joined Contentsquare 6 years ago as number 21st. We are now more than 650 employees worldwide with 700 clients. And we are considered as one of the top European SaaS unicorn, which is great because we developed a platform, UX platform to enable brands and websites, digital hubs to better understand and improve the customer experience. We raised since 2012 more than $310 million that helped us to grow quickly. And I'm really happy to share this virtual stage with Michael today for this great session, where I think we're going to share about moving to a startup to a scale-up in a 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good point, Frédéric. You guys are heading like big companies, but the goal today is really to go back to the early days and go back to the time where you are in a really intense growth phase, and it was half exciting, half scary. So scaling implies many questions and decisions to make. I think you're always have the feeling you're at the crossroads of something, and among the topics that we're seeing are a real challenge for founders at the seed stage, let's say. One is really sometimes can be seen as basic, but it can be really complex, and it's segmentation. Segmenting your target can be a challenge. You've built a product and it works well, but then you come to the question, you've been selling to a few people already, even to a lot of people, but now you need to professionalize your the way you're selling, and then the question is, who do we sell to? How do we prioritize, and which channels for which targets? Frédéric, I know this is something you've been going through a lot at Contentsquare, and I wanted to know if you could share some insight here about the segmentation of your customer base. Frédéric. Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. I think we lost Frédéric.
Okay. Let's give him 2 minutes maybe, or we'll go to the next question.
If you want, I can jump in.
Yeah.
Take the next question.
Yes, sure.
He's coming back now.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, guys. I don't know if it's you and me, but yeah, the connection just fell.
Okay. So were you able to hear the question, Frédéric?
I think it was about segmentation and
segmentation. Yeah. And how did you at Contentsquare prioritize your targets of customers? You have few verticals, and how then do you apply various channels depending on the targets?
Yes. So I think the first question to ask yourselves is, do I want to go to a B2B market or the B2C? So we are talking about SaaS, so generally it's more B2B. But then when you thinking about the B2B market, there is different areas. So or you can focus on the enterprise targets, which is the top accounts, key and strategic companies. Or you can focus also on the middle market or the small and middle business, so SMB. And it's two different markets with two different topics, with different challenges, etc. And I think it's crucial to ask you first of all this question: why I want to go, which target do I want to focus? Because it will also depend and create the mindset and the sales spirit of all the company. So at Contentsquare, we quickly chose to focus on enterprise, so the top of the pyramid. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to avoid a big competition with a lot of competitors and companies, and we really wanted to focus on the value proposition. So the freemium competitors will come later on the competition, but also there is some KPIs that are very interesting in the enterprise world, is that the churn on the enterprise segment is lower compared to the middle market churn. In the middle market, the churn is between 30 to 40% or even more. And by focusing on the enterprise, normally you create the right value proposition. So it's let's say more complicated. The sales cycle are generally longer. You need some senior guys to be able to achieve that. But at the very beginning of Contentsquare, it was clear we wanted to attract, communicate, and address this specific market, which is the enterprise. So once again, focusing on your product, on the value proposition on your product, and what kind of compelling event do you answer? And on this type of compelling event, where do you want to be? And also all the strategy regarding the revenue and the ARR will depend, because if you're focusing on SMB or middle market, then it means that you will also focusing on small ARR.
Okay, and within once you've made the choice to focus on the top of the pyramid, then you had to resegment, right? Because you're addressing a variety of industries like automotive, fashion, travel, and so on. So how did you look at this in terms of verticals then? Did you prioritize them or address all at the same time? Frédéric, I'm not sure you've heard my questions. No, doesn't seem like. So I think we'll move to the next question, which is for you, Michael. So in this scaling phase, there's one big challenge, which is culture, not just from an HR point of view, but also to implement a mindset that will be strong enough for you to ask your team to go to the next step. And so how do you make sure everyone in the company, and especially the sales team, stays aligned? And I think you at Forto set up a goal-based strategy or process to make sure everyone is aligned and stays aligned. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've implemented?
Sure, happy to do so, Marie. With Forto and also my first company that was active in the B2B space as well, I think initially as a founder, you're facing the challenge of you're crafting vision and the mission of the company, and you're trying to communicate it to the existing employees, but then also in the scaling phase when there are 10, 20 people coming in every month, to everyone who's joining the company. And we found it tremendously important and simplifying the way this communication works by implementing a OKR system. So you basically try to break down from a very top, the vision of the company, what you're trying to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years, all the way to the next quarter goals. And I think this has 3 core benefits. For one, it simplifies the communication to, as said, existing and new employees, and everyone will immediately understand what his job is, and you can create meaning for the individual. Second part is that especially in a super executive founder-driven company in the very beginning, face time can become an important KPI, which we think is not the right way to steer the organization. And I think by initializing and implementing KPIs that the entire company understands from the very beginning, this can be simplified a lot. And number 3, by implementing those KPIs very early on, I think you're creating a certain mindset that makes the entire company more data-driven and allows you then also, when you hit the pedal a bit harder and you scale, where maybe more than 20 people a month are joining, but 30 or 40 people a month are joining, and you make sure you understand what those people are working on, you understand how to create leading and indicators that give you a better understanding of how the business is currently performing and will perform going forward.
Okay, that's interesting. And Michael, in that case, who in your team did lead the project of implementing this process? Was it you or?
Yeah, so I think for the first set of OKRs, basically 3 months after the foundation, we basically set the first revenue targets for the next 3 months and the next year, more or less, to give everyone a rough indication in the direction of where the company is heading. That was our job to craft this, yeah. And by now, the OKR process lies with the people and operations team, which is basically then responsible to run this process. But of course, every single VP of the individual departments, plus us, the leadership team, are responsible for the content. And in the end, OKRs are then formed in a more or less bottom-up and top-down fashion. So you, of course, have top-down goals that the budget is dictating to some extent, and then the bottom-up strategy is developed and worked out by the individual departments.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. If anyone has a question on OKRs, please feel free to ask in the chat, and we can come back to that at the end of the session. The third point in scaling the sales team is the team itself, and we know that early stage startup, the CEO most of the time is the first seller, and at some point is still doing what we call heroic selling. So to you both, Frédéric and Michael, when does the CEO has to stop selling, and when and which profiles do you have to hire first at this stage?
So, first and foremost,
I can start. Sorry, guys. I have issues with my connection, and sorry I don't hear you, so this is why I don't answer the question, so very sorry for that. I hope you understand me. So on your question, Marie, when does the CEO stop selling? First of all, I think the question is the CEO a sales rep or an engineer? Because it's a bit different. If the CEO, she or he, is an engineer, then maybe that's not the right person to be able to sell, maybe to explain the vision, etc. But then to be able to build really the sales machine, that's more complicated. So that's two types of categories in general we have in the startup world. So if she's an engineer, I would recommend to find or a co-founder, an associate, or to recruit later a sales director or a VP, able to work on this specific topic and be able to scale. That's the main topic. So if the CEO, she or he, is a salesperson, then there is a time the CEO needs to stop selling and be able to delegate. And that's generally quite complicated. We all know that because timing is not easy. It's the baby of the founder generally, and it's hard to give your baby in some stranger hands, but you have to. And depending of the strategy to get back to the enterprise or the SMB middle market, you've decided, or you can recruit someone that is highly qualified, like a real VP or real sales director that will be able to scale, to attract also some good sales rep, and they'll start to build this sales machine. Or you can recruit, for example, just a senior sales guy or some senior sales rep that will be able just to sell and clarify your business model. So for example, on the enterprise world, what you could do, what I would recommend for a CEO is to be able, first of all, to be able to test on the market to recruit some senior sales rep that will be responsible for the selling and not hire directly the big sales director. And maybe one of the sales rep can be then the sales director or the VP. That depends once again of the timing you have on the scaling plan. But if you are more working on the middle market and the SMB and you need a lot of volumes, then the right recommendation to me is to hire someone that will be already the manager in place and will be able to really set up the goals, set up the culture, and set up the OKR and all the different aspects of the sales machine.
Okay, thank you, Frédéric. Michael, what's your view on that, you being the CEO?
So I'd say, to be blunt, I think the CEO should never stop selling entirely. Yeah, and I think there is a point in time when the CEO should not be the person or the revenue is depending on anymore. And I think as a startup, you're most likely going through different phases of being the evangelist for the product early on until you basically hit a certain, I'd say, benchmark of 2 to 3 million ARR approximately, where you then need a different type of sales leader in the organization who's done it, who is, as Frédéric said, either an experienced enterprise sales guy and knows how to fight through multi-stakeholder processes and 6 to 12 month sales processes and really refine sales documents and knows how to wear a suit, yeah, which often can be important as well, at least in this league. And then if you sell to SMB companies, then a very thorough inbound channel might be super important to you, and self-service and onboarding and really getting those smaller size clients with whatever up to 5K MRR tickets. And you need an experienced leader who's done the scaling of a company that is highly dependent on marketing. And I think then if you found out, okay, this is my core sales channel, this is my core customer segment that I will be focusing on, bringing the company from about 2 million to 10 million AR. This is really where you need the first experienced sales leader that can help you getting to that number. Beyond this, I think there's probably 2, 3, 4 phases of a company where you probably will need a slightly different profile then in addition to that. Yeah, and sometimes the VP sales improves to scale beyond this and really can take on the job from whatever 5 million ARR all the way to 100, yeah. But most likely you will need more experience in terms of how can I now bring the model that is working from one country to multiple countries. Someone who's done this expansion before. How can I, now that my sales process is working and I brought in a person that knows how to make it more repeatable and predictable, how can I scale this to where I have 60 field sales people and really refine incentive schemes, because then half of your time will be spent on calculating bonuses and making sure everyone's happy. And I just found out that, that there are multiple personas that bring in different experience. I for myself can just say, I think from being the guy who was responsible to hit the monthly revenue targets in the very beginning, my job now moved to support our sales team with strategic clients. And sometimes it's even fun for me to go back to a client, really seeing how they perceive the product and to get first-hand feedback, and to not, to constantly train the pitch, I'd say, yeah. And I always then enjoy seeing that now our salespeople are better in pitching the company than myself, and I think that's, what's always what I was shooting for.
Cool, thank you. So when scaling, so you can be solving questions bigger than others. So you're working on your customer base and how you segment and address them, on the processes, on the sales teams and structure. But sometimes at some point you can come up to the business model itself. What do you sell and how do you sell? So a lot of startups actually do pivot themselves, and I'd like to discuss with you because I think in those cases you've pivot more or less, more for Contentsquare, I think. But this, how do you stack the service and the SaaS business, and what's the consequences in terms of process, of culture, of messaging, and also in terms of client relationship? Michael, I think at Forto, the model is based on SaaS plus services. So how did you come up to such model?
Shall I start? Or?
Yeah. Okay,
cool. Well, so initially, as explained at the very beginning, Marie, Forto is supporting our clients in bringing their cargo from the origin, from the factory, all the way to the destination warehouse. Yeah. We help them to make their supply chain more reliable, more transparent, and easier to use. So in the very beginning, we helped solopreneurs and SMB companies importing tennis bats, beach ball bats, 5 containers a year from China to Europe, and then they sold them via Amazon. Yeah? By now, we basically cater to the backbone of mostly the German industry. So our clients span across people that export 2,000 containers of woods every year, or that import 10,000 refrigerators every year at Zalando, Home24, fashion, furniture, and so on and so forth. And for these clients, we found out that more profound and softer technology is important to really get an end-to-end visibility across the process. So coming from the service side, where we basically have monetized our business transactionally. Yeah, so we basically took a certain cut on every shipment that we performed and processed. We then, I wouldn't say pivoted, but we basically grew into a phase, yeah, where we now are more heavily monetizing also through the software side, giving our clients the chance to use the software and the system we built to steer their supply chain independently from who is processing and organizing their shipments. So by now we have customers that basically have their services performed with us as well, but it's also possible to get third-party service providers in there as well. Yeah? And the software side of it then basically has the function for us to create a higher retention, higher lock-in with the client, because we basically have every information the client is gathering on the entire supply chain, from invoices, customs data, different working capital information, trade financing documents. Yeah. So the dependency, of course, on us as a company and the simplicity that they experience while using our service is superior to using any of the other third-party service companies that are on the platform as well. But at the same time, it gives us the ability to scale faster, as we don't have to necessarily build up offices all across the globe. Yeah, I mean, we have now 65, 70 people in China, 5 people in Singapore, and do have scale internationally to make that possible, at least for some dimensions and in trade lanes across this world. But our goal was never from the very beginning to say we want to have 3,000 people in 120 offices worldwide, but we always said we want to find a way how we can really scale in a way that we don't have to increase the headcount globally, but we can provide our clients with the same quality of service.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Frédéric. At Contentsquare, you've done the pivot from services to SaaS. Why that, and when did that happen? What happened so you had to make this decision, and then ultimately, what did it change for the existing client base?
So yes, when I joined Contentsquare 6 years ago, the CEO told me that it was a SaaS company, but actually it wasn't that the reality, not really a SaaS company yet. So that was part of the first sales. And at the beginning, actually, we were providing some services, some services around the technology we developed and we were actually building, which was great for different things. First of all, services bring knowledge of the market. So when you are focusing on a specific industry, and in our case, it was a new industry, the experience analytics, the UX was completely the analytics world, but actually a new topic. It was really great to understand the client needs and to get some expertise and also to position ourselves as a trust advisor. So that was great, work on different projects and to really deep dive the challenges, the issues, the pain points of all of customers. So service is good, it's profitable. It was profitable for Contentsquare, and it's a good mix between technology and consulting. So I think that was the first step, that was key, that was necessary. But very fast, we understood that that wasn't the goal and that we needed to move and pivot from services to SaaS. Why is that? Because I think you will all understand as you are entrepreneurs, but service is not scalable compared to SaaS. Since you need to hire more and more and many people as the sales of the audit and the consulting hours increase. Also, the business model doesn't really highlight the technology asset on the services part. So we really wanted to focus on the SaaS and on the platform we are developing to be able to give that to our customers for them to really understand their pain points in terms of customer experience and customer journey. And we wanted all the people and the users on the client side to be able to work on the platform and then do and make the modification. And there is another thing, which is the attractiveness model of the SaaS versus the services. And you can understand that, of course, the SaaS is much more attractive to investors. So when you want to grow fast, when you want to expand and raise some money, of course, it's better to have a SaaS model. So this is why very quickly we moved and we pivoted to the SaaS model. So in 2015, only 15% of the turnover was on a SaaS, but in 2019, it was around 93% of SaaS and 3% of services. So when we did the switch, we really did it in 2 years. That was really hard, internally and externally. Internally, because it was a change of the culture, it was a change of the CSM. We needed more CSM because one CSM will have more clients, and we needed at the same time to reduce the number of clients per CSM. So once again, the CSM is the customer success manager, so more the account manager that will be the operational contact. And on the sales point of view, of course, it's a bit different also. The approach is not the same because you don't sell consulting hours. You will sell a product, and then with a license mode, with a fee, a fixed fee, which is a bit different. And you don't sell the same from services to SaaS. That's one of my knowledge. I did several mistakes of recruitment by thinking that some sales will switch to services to SaaS, and it's not the case at all. So I will recommend to focus on people that have a background on the SaaS. And it was also difficult for the client because the client, they get used to the services, to all the consulting hours you provide, and they are a bit scared about losing that by more autonomy and independence. So it's a switch at a different level that you really need to do if you want to be scalable. Because of course, when you look at all the SaaS, the big SaaS company, this is what they do. Like, of course, Salesforce, Adobe, and Oracle.
Cool. And so, Frédéric, you're speaking about the challenges during the transition period, but I think Yoni has a question for you, asking it now as we're in the topic. He's asking, what are the limits you're facing as a SaaS company? Because we're hearing you, it sounds like a great move to take a company, especially looking at scaling. If there are any limits, what would they be? For both of you.
Michael, do you want to start?
Please go ahead.
Maybe they're known.
Well, the different challenges of the SaaS company are always the same. Once you grow, it's to be able to go global. So maybe that will be a part of the discussion if you have some time, but you need to expand because at Contentsquare, we are French. We were French from the beginning. You can hear that with my accent. But then we went global, and now we have opened offices in different countries. And it's actually required that some specific markets, some specific regions, they do much more. They make much more business than the other ones. So of course, French market was the first one, and it's still important. But then that's the big challenge for us. Is to start to have this percentage of the ARR and of the turnover that is growing on the other regions, for example, the US on our side, and actually also to maintain the business we do in the other and historical region. Another challenge will be the retention, because once you sign the project, this is good, but then you need to keep your clients. And for a SaaS company, what is key, first, and the major metric, the major KPI is the ARR. So the amount of the ARR, if it's small, the valuation, the value of the company is lower. If it's big, then this is great for you. But also the retention is key because you need to grow, but you need to maintain and keep your clients. The churn rate starts to really be key. So this is the challenge we have, and normally scale-up have once they grow is globalization and retention on the ARR.
Michael, do you want to add anything on that?
I mean, I think there's two core dimensions we see as a challenge. It's number one, of course, hiring and attracting the right talent in time. Yeah? And for two, it's limitations you might face in terms of a service maturity, software maturity. Yeah. So how quickly can you scale your software product with the right value proposition in the individual segment, because most likely you will have to expand beyond whatever is selling to SMB clients. And then, of course, requirements by customers might change, might grow, might increase. And we especially see both of those angles to be the most tricky to overcome and solve on a day-by-day basis.
Okay, thank you. So one last big question, big topic when we're looking at scaling a sales team. And especially in a SaaS business, you need to fuel the lead engine, and that's a really big thing. So when you start, it can be challenging to know where to put the effort first, and how to build a good relationship that works between marketing and sales, and actually where does marketing start and stops, and there's always some friction between marketing and sales. We hear also many questions from seed stage founder about should I go inbound or outbound? Actually, maybe you need to do both. But the question is, how do these two things, sales and marketing, articulate themselves? And then how do you structure your sales team to fuel that lead engine? Frédéric, what sales organization have you implemented to drive such an intense growth? And what connections between sales and marketing have you implemented?
Yeah, so once again, I think we need to get back to what I was saying at the beginning, like we are focusing from the beginning to enterprise accounts and key accounts, which is once again different when you have to do a lot of quantity, etc. So this is specific. So we didn't create something just crazy. The sales machine, the growth hacking of all the people I was talking about, well, that's really good. But then that's the intensity you put on the job and the organization. And on that, the first step of the rocket will be, we discuss it, CEO selling or not, then CEO stop selling, and some people start to sell. Then when you start to have some sales rep that are able to sell and you prove that the business model can work, and you start to switch from the right business model you want, for example, from services to SaaS, then you need to grow the team and to be able to target more and more companies. So one thing we did was to work on the bowling alley strategy. I'm going to explain is actually to get the leader of the market on a specific vertical, and then to be able to get the second and the third on the same industry. One specific strategy we focus on at the beginning, especially on the enterprise, because, well, one big name attracts all the others. And for that, we needed to work on the senior sales rep that were recruited, on their network, on their experience and different assets. But then we needed to work on the sales machine. And to be able to do that, once again, the first step was to have the right sales rep, and then to start focusing on BDR and SDR team, which was really the second step of the rocket. So BDR, SDR are the people that will identify the different contacts with the right approach, some mapping accounts, and actually cold calling. So we were much more in an outbound strategy, because generally, when you are targeting the enterprise market, it's quite difficult to get some inbound, so you need the outbound. This is why it's so complicated and so hard. So it was clearly an outbound strategy, focusing on calls and trying to find the right people and create the right value by the sales pitch. But to be able to start to create some notoriety and be a trust leader or trust actor of the market, we need some marketing. So the first step of the marketing was more communication, specific event for people to know us, but quickly. And you're right, there is a real link, Marie, between marketing and sales. We decided to create one same KPI for everyone. And this KPI was the creation of the pipeline, which is the creation of the opportunity. And I'm going to give you one concrete example for you to understand what it means. If we organize an event at Contentsquare, of course, it's organized by the marketing. It could be a webinar, it could be a breakfast, etc. The event is organized, people will come, and for people to come, the SDR and the BDR will start to work directly with the marketing and also with their sales, account manager or account executive, to be able to define which target, which names, which company to invite. Then all the people are there during this event, and we will try to organize a quick workshop, quick session, or quick meetings during the event, before the meetings, the event, or after the event, to be able to have some real discussion and one-on-one. And when I'm explaining that is that after the event, it won't be the sales director that will come to ask to the sales rep, did you create your opportunity in Salesforce or in your CRM, and how is it going to be? What is the next step? It will be the marketing. Why? Because the marketing has a real incentive and is monitored directly on the creation of the opportunity. So if the sales create the opportunity, the SDR, the BDR is related and directly impacted, and it's the same for the marketing, because we all have the same KPI, which is the creation of the opportunity.
Cool. Thank you, Frédéric. That's really interesting. Michael, so I know we're running quite late, but there's one question I have, because I've been working with startups that for some of them are disrupting some more traditional market that are not digital first, which I believe is your case. in freight forwarding. So what does that change actually, looking at the lead generation, when you're addressing a target that's not digital first? Did you do things differently, or what kind of practice did you apply? Michael, we can't hear you.
And what Frédéric has been saying, yeah. And on top of this, I'd say there's probably a barrier of around 10 to 15,000 euro annual contract value, where there is a line between inbound focused measures and outbound focused measures in the very beginning. I think as the company grows and matures, inbound will become a more and more important and effective channel. Yeah, but in the very beginning, I think you can more or less draw this fine line. And while drawing this line, and then especially if you're selling to, let's say, more conservative customers and let's say not necessarily digital natives or early adopters, for us it became more interesting. So we, for one, connected the SDR team with the marketing team, making it to one department as our growth organization that is responsible hand in hand for the pipeline, a little bit just like Frédéric just explained it. And they are then handing over the leads to the sales organization. For us, it was really important to train the SDRs on the individual pitches, and of course also think heavily about the constellation of this team. Yeah. So for us, for example, it was a good step to hire a guy 50 plus who's been in the trucking industry for 20, 25 years. So he speaks the same language. He can pick the people up where they are right now, so he knows exactly what kind of problems they have. And then this person again helps you to train the other 6 or 7 people who are sitting around him listening into those calls. And once you then, I'd say over the last 2 years especially, refined the pitch to where you really understand the customer's problem and you more or less can say the first sentence that they answer at your call. I think marketing strategies and account-based marketing, so really working through existing accounts already and making sure that you get a foot in the door there, become more important. Those 3 steps are more or less the experience I can share around this.
Cool, thank you, boss. Quentin, I know we're coming at the end of the session. I had one last very quick question for both of you. The theme for B2B Rocks this year is rebound. We're in such a challenging year. In a sentence, what piece of advice do you guys have for founders who are facing hard times, maybe? Michael?
Yeah, very briefly, I think first of all the best to all the companies listening in. Stick through it and never waste a crisis. Think when there are bad times, also open up tons of opportunities. Go after them.
Cool, Frédéric.
So nothing crazy, because it's difficult to find some great issues and answers to this crazy stuff that impact us. But I think that there is 2 ways to react to this situation. Or we can say, yeah, we want to avoid this situation. It won't happen in the business. We need to be strong. We will succeed, etc. But actually, this is not great, because this is a reality. Another thing is to find some excuses and to say, well, it's complicated because we have the COVID, so we won't be able to sign, and the deal will switch to the next quarter, etc. So this is different type of mood, mindset. I think it's the end. But just to finish, I think we just need to understand the situation and be realistic and embrace the situation, saying, okay, this is our new reality. We don't know when it will be ended. We will know how it goes. Nobody knows. So it's just the reality. We need to face it. We need to embrace it, and we need to deal with it. So let's find just some solutions concretely.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much to you both. I'm sorry for those who asked questions and we didn't have time to cover. Quentin,
perfect. Thank you, Marie. Take care. And
thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Marie. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. So we had a great session with salespeople. We're gonna take a 1-minute break, and we'll be back with the marketing point of view. So we are looking forward to chatting with Preleni, VP Marketing EMEA from Zendesk, and Roy Sowertsky, who is a co-founder and CEO at Twig.io. So see you in a minute.
Just walk your